The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, Kevin. Welcome back. I guess we'll give the others a couple minutes to come on. I'm going to send out an email to remind them just in case. They forgot. So Mr. Dubick threw a wrench in my plans today, but not to blame him. Just have some little change in plans of what I told you, probably. Slight change in plans, which we might change back, because I know, I think the Kerbal Space Program was originally part of the agenda. It's been taken off for now. I know at least one of you was particularly excited about it, so we'll probably take a poll in class and see. It's the way these things go, I guess. Also, we will be getting into our hands dirty with a little bit more JavaScript today. That's our plan, at least. Yeah, I know you were hoping for the Kerbal Space Program, and I think Jaden also really wanted to. So I know either way, the materials aren't ready for it yet. So I'm going to talk to Mr. Dubick about maybe moving the schedule around a little bit so we can get it in. I know, I'm sorry about that. I just found out today, or yesterday. I think today will be fun, though. We're going to get to finally use some of the JavaScript we've been learning and have a little experience with something we completely have, programming when we haven't seen at least the exact language before. Well, I'm not sure if everyone else just forgot. Oh, I forgot to put my screen on. Whoa, that's not what I meant. Yeah, there we go. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but that's our plan. We've got 13 webinars to go. Now Mr. Dubick right now he's got 5 lessons on Unity Game Engine, which is I think that was another, you can write in JavaScript to program games. So we might be able to cut back that since we're doing some extra JavaScript now and fit Kerbal Space in here somewhere. Yeah, just in case you can't read that, I'll go ahead and read it out loud. And for the people who might watch this later too, we've got this today and tomorrow we'll be programming JavaScript. Next week will be materials engineering. The next following 3 weeks would be Unity Game Engine. A week of future engineering, and then we'll have one final wrap-up class. So this is still tentative, but that's at least the plan that we're going with right now. So I wanted to go over a simple example, or a fun example, I guess. I shouldn't call it simple because it's not really simple, but I'll send the link so you can follow along if you like. I'm going to assume some people are going to watch this later since just Kevin right now. So if you are going to watch this later, this is on codecademy.com. If we go back, this is the animate your name task. So we're going to start this, and what we're going to do, it's going to load. There we go. No. Okay. So I think you might have seen Codecademy before. It's a pretty good way to learn how to code, especially for websites. So what we've got here is just a little animation. You can just play around with it. I think it's kind of fun. All right, you can change it up. Let's say my name is David. There we go. Play with my name. You can chase some dots around. They really go flying sometimes. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so anyway, let's learn the steps to building it. So first step says put in your name. I'm gonna put in engineers because we're cool. All right, and let's see. Okay, so easy. So how does this work? Well, we want to start with our name. Notice we've got a basic web page over here. We have 2 tabs. We can switch back and forth. This is just one of the most basic website you can have. You're declaring that it's an HTML document. Then we have an HTML tag, is what all of these are called. I think most of you have seen HTML before, so I'm not going to cover it too much, but I think you can study it yourself either on Codecademy or another site if you haven't, but we won't really be writing it, so you don't have to worry about it. I'll explain what we need to know. So we've got in the head here, this is stuff that you don't see. It's kind of like, you can think of it as the metadata, or there is one thing actually that we'll see. Let's see if I close out our, let me do this. Preview of what's up. Oh, okay. Make these tabs bigger so you can actually see that it says animate your name up here. well, we'll get to that later. Okay, so the head stuff is stuff you don't see. The body contains things that you do see. For example, if I were to write a P is for paragraph. Yeah, P. This is a paragraph. Then we get a paragraph. We can get heading by doing H1. You can try a bunch of different things too. And basically, almost every tag that we'll see has an opening and closing part. The opening part is just the tag enclosed in open and close angle brackets, and then there's this little backslash right here. That's the one next to your shift key, not the one above enter. And you just put text inside. I'm editing. So, and this is what you get, right? Keep pasting, you get a bunch of paragraphs. So this is the structure of a web page. This is how you start creating a web page. So we'll get rid of that for the purpose of this, and we're going to go, but just know that everything that we add will go into the body. Every element we add, for example, these are 4 elements here. We can call them, an element consists of, the open tag, the close tag, and something inside. And we can name our elements too. We can give them, we can say ID equals header, and we can say, we can also give things classes. Classes are more like categories. I could say, I don't know, 1, 2. And this is fine, because the point is, IDs are unique, classes are not unique. And we'll see how we can refer to these elements later. So these 2 paragraphs, we can, we'll be able to refer to them using their class, or we can refer to elements using their ID, or we can refer to elements using the name of the element itself, like body, or the type of element, heading, paragraph, that sort of thing. So this is how we can like this. These are our names for the parts of the HTML page. So for now, since we're going to be creating in JavaScript everything we need for the body, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. So we'll go back to the JavaScript document, or the JavaScript file, I guess. You can think of these tabs as files. And this whole HTML document is referred to as document. So you can start off by writing your name. Document.write adds a paragraph tag inside the body. So we'll do engineers. The spacing doesn't really matter. Pretty much doesn't matter. It's just for style and to make it look good. Let's see. Yeah, I think it wants us to write the length of our name. Set code. We wrote how long it is. That just means, oh, I'll go back. Actually, it's too fast. So we can, inside of these parentheses, we can treat these strings as strings and call functions on them. So we called on this string, we wrote .length. I also forgot to mention, but what we're writing here is called, the language is jQuery, which is built off of JavaScript. So this syntax might be a little bit different from what you've been used to, but you can do things like .length That's a JavaScript function. There's just some extra features that jQuery has built in that we'll take advantage of. So I'll try to point out the differences when we get to them later too. We don't really care about animating, about numbers. Let's go straight to animating. Okay. So here what we've got is arrays. These arrays are RGB values, red, green, blue. So red is, well, they're calling red, I guess, they looked up the values. 0, 100, 63 is the red color that they're using. The orange color is this. I'm not sure that that's right because RGB starts off with R. I would think that would be more, I would think GB would be more of a purple, but I guess not. So anyways, that's what we're going to end up with. But let's go back to engineers. So you notice I move my hand over here, nothing happens. But we see that we have this function, draw name, and it takes a string, and that draw name does the same as that document.write function. So we're going to use this one instead because it's, I guess, two ways of doing the same thing. It says they prepared a blue. Yeah, so draw name can take colors like blue. It can also take arrays of colors. For example, we'll say letter or bar colors equals, put all these in an array. Red, orange, green, blue, purple. Okay. So we enter all these in an array, and it goes through one by one, and it keeps looping around through the array. It starts off with red and makes the N red, and then the A orange. You get the picture. So this is all manipulating, just pretty simple manipulating text so far. Oh, we're supposed to change the name back to engineers. Okay. But it still doesn't go. So what's up? Well, we're nearly getting there. We can change the shape. Let's set up another variable. Bubble shape equals square. And add another parameter. And we've got squares. I'll full screen this so you can see. There we go. Yeah, so who knows how many shapes they've built in, but we could try triangle. Nope, it didn't like triangle, but look at that. It just defaulted back to bubbles, so that's nice that it doesn't crash. But squares are good. We'll go with squares. Okay, it doesn't want us to do this yet. Going ahead of it. Oh, I should have done this. Okay. If 10 is less than 3, okay. So we'll show you can change things up. Let's make it squares. Okay. Oh, they want to make it circle shaped. Okay. Go. Alright, so we're getting some experience kind of manipulating things in JavaScript. We haven't done anything with elements, though, still, besides drawing our name, which was still pretty basic. But how do we bounce? Well, it's actually very simple. We call bounce name, which is just a function. No inputs or anything. It just bounces what you've drawn, what you're using draw name. And you can kind of see things are jumping around a little bit very quickly. Let's see, they're kind of rattling when I hold my mouse nearby, but not like we saw before. So change. So that's one function that you can use, but if you call bounce bubbles, oh, we see this, we get exactly what we'd seen before. So there we go. But you know, what's the fun in that? Well, it's kind of fun. It's really cool to use things other people have made and just kind of plug them in so easily. You don't have to touch any code, and that's really nice. That's fun. But we didn't get to really experience any code. So this is a function that somebody else wrote, and they included it in the jQuery file, I guess. And so when you include that jQuery file, you get that function called bounce bubbles, and it will bounce things that you've drawn. I'll show you, let's see. We can make these squares, and they'll bounce all the same. I kind of like the squares better, but it's just me. All right, so yeah, that's there's some bubbles. That's, like I said, though, this is a little trivial because all the real code was written behind the scenes. So let's figure out how we can do this ourselves. Oh, I might restart. Refresh this. Well, you can see that I've done this already. I'm not good at this. Incognito. Okay. All right. Here we go. So let's go to the setup. Now, I'm going to go through this because we haven't seen this before. So I did say that you don't see anything in the head, but there's this one tag called title where it says to do, and this is misleading a little bit because it's not this text that you see here, but I can change it to to-do list, and you can see this doesn't change. If I change here, it changes. So this title is not being displayed there, but if we go full screen, and if this weren't embedded in a website, we would see the title up here where we see modifying HTML elements. This is just embedded in Codecademy's site, so that's why it's not fully working like we'd expect. But normally, in a regular web page, if this were not embedded inside of Codecademy's site, you would see that page up here in the when you put it in the title, not page, the text. Oops. Okay. Oh, back at the introduction. Okay. So let's go back to the setup. All right. So, and what is this here? We have link, also in the header, we have a link tag with some parameters, rel equals style sheet, type equals text.css, href equals stylesheet.css. So all of this is a fancy way of saying, hey, add to this web page a style sheet. And what's the style sheet? Well, it's this other document right here. And it specifies how things should look. So our H2 tags, those I showed you an H1 tag before. H2 is just a little bit smaller text. You can go H3, H4, H5, H6. I think there's just 6 of them. And then, so you have 6 heading possibilities, and then you can use paragraphs. All the headings are just, H1 is the biggest and H6 is the smallest. And then paragraphs, I think, are smaller than, I'm not sure, H6 is pretty small. Form is, we'll see that in a sec. Using the pound here means we'll see div inside of this div, which I'll explain in a sec. It's got an ID equals button. So this div is this. We don't know anything about this div, but it's open here. This is the opening div tag. This is the closing div tag. So we know it's an element, and inside the element it says add. Well, we see add here. So we go to the style sheet, and we know it's called button. So since HTML can't do anything, it just is the bare bones. Style sheets referred to as more like the skin, the texture and the color and everything. So all of this has been written for us to make this button-looking thing, the add right here. So basically a div is just a blank slate. It's a section on the web page. I think it stands for division. So in the style sheet, we just specify a bunch of characteristics. You can change them up if you like. For example, we could change the height to 120 pixels, and we see we've got a 120 pixel div. We can change the color. Right now it's FF. Let's change it to E. Oh yeah, it did. Okay. You see what's changing? That's the text color. So let's see, FF0000. Now it's red. So anyways, we'll go back to white because that's easy to see. Okay. So you can play around with this sort of thing, but this isn't what we're here to learn. But we want to kind of explore the structure. So what's left is the dot list. So we see we want to find something called list, and it looks like we have another div here that has a class of list. There could be more divs with classes of list, but this is the first one. And we see, so classes are referred to by dot list, whereas IDs are referred to as hashtag button or pound button. For regular elements like forms or headers, you could do, if you wanted to apply something to the body, you would just write body. Or if you wanted to write something that applied to all paragraphs, you would write P. And that's all there is to it. You could say P font equals Arial. I don't know. Font family. Not equals, colon, Arial, I think. That's probably what font it already is. Oh yeah, okay. Garamond, how about that? No, they might not like that. Anyways, bad example, but where we really want to go, though, is to the JavaScript page. All right, so to get started, some of this I'm just going to ask you to accept, and then probably next lesson we'll go into a few more details of why we're doing this. But I'll tell you what's happening at least. So we're going to say, okay, we're saying, all right, document. Actually I will, so this, the cache sign, I'll say cache, open, close, parentheses. It's like saying in jQuery, it's like, okay, jQuery, get something. So the first thing I want to get is the document. And there's a function that you can call in the document called ready. So we want to call that, and we're going to add our own function when the document is ready. So we're going to call function, and we'll pass in no parameters, but we're going to just write everything we want inside of these open close brackets. So we're defining our function that will happen when the document's ready. All right. So we're good to go. Now we want to add a click. So when we click this add div, remember that's the name of the HTML element is a div. So when we click that div, which we called button, that's the ID that we named it. We could name it anything we want, but we named it button. So we want to say, okay, get the ID button. So this just works just like CSS. We do hashtag button or # button. We put that in parentheses, or I mean in single quotes. And that means that's just saying, okay, get the element with ID of button. Dot click. So when the button is clicked, we want to embed a function. We want to add our own function that is called when the button is clicked. Function. And you'll see I'm closing things as we go to keep track of parentheses and that sort of thing. So now, when the document's ready, and when we click, or when the document's ready, that just means when the page is loaded. When all of the HTML has been loaded, the browser says, okay, it calls document.ready, and then that way the JavaScript doesn't apply before all of the CSS has been, or all of the everything else behind the scenes is loaded. Basically, if you put your JavaScript, all of your JavaScript that you write inside of document.ready, you're safe, because it's not going to. It's going to run after everything else has loaded, which is what you want. That's why we put it in document.ready. But so we're going to put our function inside of, or add a function to when we click what we called button, this div here. So we're going to, and we're also going to add a variable to add. We'll call it bar to add equals, and we want to set it to the contents of the input field. And here, again, just accept that we're going to say, okay, we want to get that input field. So we know it's going to be something, and val is actually, this is an input field that we can type in, right? So .val will get what we type into here. So we need to find out a way to reference it. So here we can see to do, all right, next is the form, checklist form, and inside of this form we have an input of type text that's named checklist item. So it's the only input on the page, so we just need, all we have to do is type input, and that will select this one. But what if we were to add another input on the page? That wouldn't be very useful, because we may expand this page in the future, and then whatever function we write here will apply to all of the inputs, or this will grab, we might not be grabbing the right input, the text from the right input. So I'm going to make this more descriptive to text to add. So we can use this here. Let's, well, we're going to have to do it the way they want to do, otherwise they won't let me through. So I'm just going to copy this for now. But name equals checklist item. I don't really like using this style, but I think you can see name equals checklist item. We named it here. It'd be better for them to refer to it as an ID, like ID equals button or classes list. We should probably have given this an ID, but I don't think it's going to let us go through. Oh, and it wants to add. Okay, we can change this later. But all right. So now that we've gotten, so what's in this to add? Well, like I said, we grabbed this input field, which is this box, and we said .val, which I said was the text inside of here. So this is just a string, since that's all text is. So we've saved the string that we typed in here. When we click add, we're going to grab the string, and well, we have this empty div here. I think we've seen, yeah, right here. So it's, let's see. Let me see if div. Color black. I'm not sure. I'm a little rusty at my CSS. So, anyways, we'll go back to this. Sorry. So what we want to do is append the div, append to the div a new element that we want to make. So we're going to do a lot of things here. Oh, hi, Jaden. Sorry, I just saw that you joined us. So we're doing some HTML, but we're trying to. This is actually jQuery that we're writing in, which is JavaScript with some extra functionality added to it. So it is HTML, but we're taking the JavaScript that we learned and applying it to web pages. Okay, you don't need to know a ton of HTML. It might help to go back and watch the YouTube video, this recording, just to get the basics that you need. But you should be all right because you've done it before. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm going to go over several times, what we're doing and why we're doing it, because yeah. Okay, so yeah. All right. So where was I? Yeah. So we were appending to this div. We have an empty div here. We decided that you can just imagine as just, right now it's not taking up any space, but it's a kind of a designated block that we can add new things to. Divs are nothing until, they're just kind of placeholders, I guess, until we give them colors by using a style sheet and size and putting text in them. For example, when we made this button here, so this div, yeah, here's the div. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and make this. So here we could add a paragraph just so you can see what the div looks like. All right, so we can add a bunch of paragraphs, and that's what they look like if they were, when they're in the div. So this is the list here. Now we don't want to type ahead of time because we can't predict what everyone else is going to put in the list, and we want this to be dynamic. So we're going to go ahead and make this an empty list again. But we know it's called a class's list. So to refer to the class, we want to use our get, so like our selector, and just like CSS, we refer to classes with dot. So we'll go dot list, and we can call the function append, and we are going to, this is actually appending the text straight into the HTML code. So we're going to write a string. Also in JavaScript you can use single quotes or double quotes, but in this case we have to alternate them because we're using multiple quotes in the same string. So I'm going to start off with a single quote, div, and give it a class equals item. All right. You can see there's the item has double quotes, and then I'm going to close the single quote. And you can see I'm just building a string here. This toAdd is a string variable, so I can add strings together and they will just stick on to each other. And then I'm going to add the closing \div here, and then close my parentheses. Oh, I need to make my page just a little bit bigger. Nope, that's not working. Oh well. Okay, I'm going to get rid of some of these spaces. Everything's on one line. All right. So, so this text right here. We don't know what toAdd is because that's what the user types, but we made that a variable, and it's going to add div class equals item and close the div. Remember, our style sheet has the list. It gives it a font of Garamond and a color of CC0000. Well, these zeros mean there's no blue, RGB, no blue and green, but there's some red. So it should be a reddish color. And yep, so we're going to add that text in here. That's the idea, at least, when we click. So let's try it out. Let's type in, all right, I'm going to go with a grocery list. Apple. Click add. maybe I made a mistake. List.append, div class item. Let's see. Apple. Maybe I made a mistake. It liked my code. Oh, this worked before. What am I doing wrong? I must have made a typo. Okay. Let's check and make sure we're doing everything right. We alternated quotation marks. Class equals item plus 2 add plus the closing div tag. We append it. Maybe I need a semicolon. Well, I can cheat and pull up my code from before. Just gonna copy and paste. I don't see anything different though. I'm sure there's something small. I don't know if either of you two see a little typo I'm making, but huh. Oh, no. Alright. Let's try copying and pasting a little bit more. Hello. Unexpected code semicolon. I am not sure. I just had this work. Must be making a tiny mistake somewhere. List append div class equals item. What if I remove this class equals item just to see what it list item? I spelled that. Maybe let's go back. Make sure I did this right. Input name. Well, I'm going to go ahead and maybe the page just isn't working. I just did this and it worked though, so I'm not really sure. Anyways, we'll go ahead and then I'll show you it working in just a second. But for now, you'll just have to trust me and know that there's probably something really small, one letter wrong about this or something. Okay, so as this site is pointing out, you might think that you can remove an element. So what do we want to do? I'm not sure that I ever went over this actually. So the goal of this is a to-do list where you can type in something like Apple, click add, and it adds, and then you type in orange and you click that add and it'll make a list, and then when you've done the items on the list, you can click them and they go off the list. So the way we take them off the list is maybe a little unexpected, but we're going to have to talk to the document. We're going to go document.on, and we're going to name an event. The event is click. We're going to tell it what we want it to look for when there's a click. So anytime there's a click, in anywhere in the whole page, it's going to look for our an item that's been clicked on. Anything of the class item, and then it's going to take a function as an input, and this is where we decide what we want to do to that item. And so we actually want to go this, which is how we, in finally seeing this keyword this, okay, so this is the item of class, or the thing of class item that was clicked on. It calls that function on this item. So this will refer to the single item that we click on, even though I know it's a little confusing, but that's how we let's test this out again. Why is this not working? Okay, well, give this one last look to add equals input close my parentheses out. Well, anyways, let's okay, let's get rid of that. Is that the right thing? I want to show this one. No, not that one. It's the other one. All right. One sec. All right. So just to show you that you don't need you don't need Codecademy. On my computer, I'm not showing you the right thing. On my computer, I have a text editor. This is Notepad++. You could just as easily use Notepad or WordPad or any of the pads. I know Macs and PCs all come with a standard one. Notepad++ just gives me the advantage that I can have a couple of things open all at once. And so what I've done is I copied and pasted the style sheet and named it stylesheet.css. I've copied and pasted what I call groceries.html. It's just our main page. See, it has doctype HTML. It's called, the title is to do. We have the same elements as before. We have our div where the list goes. We have the button that says add. We have our to-do header. This is all in the body. The only things that we had to make sure to include, which Codecademy does in the background, it kind of hides it from us sometimes, is these two calls right here. There's this one, script, source, and then there's this long link. I'll go ahead and copy and paste it in case you'd like to save that. But this is Google provides for free. They'll host the jQuery function. Basically, you put this script in your header of your HTML page, and you automatically get jQuery. You can actually, if you go into your browser, there's a way to look at it. I just want to show you this working. So, and you'll see here, we've added our script of type text/JavaScript. It's got a source. The name is list.js right here. And see, I've named our JavaScript code list.js. You can ignore these two files because we're really just going to see these three. I've linked our style sheet. The style sheet's named stylesheet.css. You can see that here. Type text.css and style sheet. That's just standard. So we had to put these 3 lines in our header to tell the web page where everything is. So it can point to the right files and it knows where they are. And then we've created that body like I discussed. So that style sheet is just exactly the same. It's just to make it look a little nicer. And here is, I just copied and pasted, well, before I did. So it worked for me. I don't know why it wasn't working on the other side. So I'll just show you what this looks like. You can see I created a folder that I called website. You can name it anything you want. And you can see inside of this folder I called website, I have groceries.html. Now be sure, this is the hardest part, is actually remembering to name your file groceries.html if you're saving it in Notepad or something like that. You have to make sure to add that .html every time you save it. Otherwise, you'll accidentally save it as a txt file and your browser won't read it the right way. The same as with JavaScript, you name it list.js, and CSS style sheets you name stylesheet.css or whatever you want to name the style sheet, but it has to be .css. That way it knows what type of files it's looking at. Okay, so we go back. Let's see, we're going to go to a web browser. Oh, and that's right. I'm going to copy that. I'll show doing this. So on this, if you click here, I'm not exactly sure how to do it on a Mac, but I know it's the same process. You copy, see on computers, on PCs, it's C:/ forward, or I guess that's a backslash. I've been calling backslash the other one, but I don't know. C:/users, dkdo, which is me, desktop website. That's where I saved this website folder. If you go into your browser and paste it in, I'm going into here, and I just paste it in, that link C/users, dkdo, desktop website, and it takes me to this folder structure, which is kind of gross looking. So I'm going to click on groceries.html, and voila, we have our web page. And I can add an apple and click add, and look, it adds the apple. And then I can go orange and click add. I can go, see, I want some grapes, and there we go. Now that's adding them. We saw that when you click them, they should go away, right? So if I click orange, oh, it's gone. Grapes, apples, all gone. We can add them back. We can add a bunch of them, and we can take them away again. So that shows, that's a really brief introduction to jQuery and what you can do with it, and also showing you that you don't need, it's really, really useful and convenient to use something like Codecademy, but you can do it on your browser, on your computer. You do have to have an internet connection, though, because you have to load jQuery. The alternative would be to actually download that jQuery file, and as long as you point to that jQuery file, just like you pointed to your other JavaScript file where we wrote this code, it would work just the same. So if you haven't submitted your checkers, I encourage you to go ahead and do that. Mr. Dubik has been, he said he's been working with the company to get the webcam to work, but no matter what, he said he has his own webcam now. so that if the company, the 3D printer's webcam doesn't work in the next week, then he's going to have his own webcam streaming once he gets that set up. So he has two ways of going about it now. He said definitely in the next week. He said he apologized for not being on time, but we should be up and running with the 3D printing soon. But I don't think he's received all four a submission from all four of you. So if you haven't submitted, please go ahead and do that soon if you would like to do that at all. And if you have any questions, Jaden, I'll ask him if he can tell me whose he doesn't have on. I assume if you submitted one, he should have it, but I will double check with Mr. Dubik. I'll send him an email just right after we end this up. So if there's no more questions, I hope you guys have a good evening, and I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. Yeah, you know what I mean. All right, see you Wednesday, and have a nice day. Bye. Oh, I'm still here, so I'll answer this question. When are we doing KSP? Kerbal. Again, I'm going to have to, oh, that's right. I talked about that in the beginning of this webinar, but our schedule is a little unclear. Right now, Mr. Dubik took Kerbal Space out of this class so that we could have more time to go in depth and other things. But since I know there's a couple of you that really want to do it, I'm going to talk to him. It wouldn't be until one of the last 2 or 3 weeks of the class anyways. So I'm going to talk to him about, he is still doing it for one other class, so I'm going to see if we can do it with our class too, and spend a little less time doing JavaScript since we're ahead of other classes doing in JavaScript. So I'm confident that we will actually get to it, Jaden, but we'll see. Unfortunately, I can't promise that. But I encourage you also to go back and watch the first maybe 30 minutes or so of the webinar, because we went over another kind of more introductory JavaScript and did some introductory HTML, and then also in the first maybe 10 minutes or so, I talked about what we would be doing for the rest of the class, and you can see our course schedule and that sort of thing. But I'm going to have to get off now because the next class needs to get on the line. So if you have any more questions, you can send me an email, and Jaden, and I'll make sure that to get a list, if you can give me a list of who has submitted. So all right. Have a good night.